Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Education Society managed R.N.G. Patel Institute of Technology, previously known as FETR, is one of Gujarat's leading institute based in Bardoli. The institute is recognized by AICTE and affiliated to Gujarat Technological University. The institute was established in the year 2010. The institute has 5 engineering streams: chemical engineering, civil engineering, computer science and engineering, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering. The institute has 7 departments, including science and humanities and workshop. The institute has dynamic curriculum, robust and talented pool of faculty members, and state-of-the-art infrastructure in all the departments. It is well known for imparting quality education, active research, and also nurturing students for holistic development achieved through student engagement tools like continuous evaluation, practical-oriented learning, departmental electives, soft skills development, and many more. Recently, RNGPIT has started AICTE approved and Gujarat Technological University affiliated 3 years industry-oriented graduation program, Bachelor of Vocation, on skill development based higher education. The institute has 3 BVoc courses: BVoc in software development, BVoc in production technology, and BVoc in refrigeration and air conditioning. The institute has organized 144 expert talks, 165 industrial visits, 90 workshops, 76 seminars, 32 STTPs, and 20 faculty development programs till today. The institute is proud of its academic results. RNGPIT is continuously securing top rank at state level and zone level in Gujarat Technological University. India's first Common Engineering Facility Center, governed by Setu Foundation, is being developed at our college campus. The institute has signed MOU with UGEC PowerMax Private Limited Vadodara for skill development, industrial training in wind energy, with Aspiring Minds Gurgaon for the job placement, for Trivedi Global Education Mumbai for the guidance of higher education in abroad, with eYantra IIT Mumbai for the development of robotic laboratory, and with Reliance Jio for the development of recruitment and training center in the field of ICT. Training and placement cell of the institute is active and alive. RNGPIT 2 job fairs in the association with Directorate and Training, Government of Gujarat, and N.G. Patel Polytechnic. The institute has organized 2 IT job fair in the association with Surat Owners Association. The institute has started SSIP cell for development of innovative projects and patent generation. Various projects done by our students have been presented at National International Expo and Enclaves. RNGPIT has established NPTEL local chapter for various online courses provided by IITs. Institute has run various skill development courses free of cost under Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana approved by National Skill Development Corporation. RNGPIT has developed Hansaben B. Poonawalla Vocational Training and Research Center with 14 advanced well-equipped laboratories. The institute has developed Tinkering Lab with the Association of Student Startup and Innovation Policy Cell, Gujarat State, in which students can enhance their knowledge in the field of IoT, robotics, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, calligraphy, and many more. The Chemical Engineering Department of RNGPIT is recognized as Schedule 1 Environmental Auditor by Gujarat Pollution Control Board Gandhinagar since 2012. The institute has around 40 industries allotted by GPCB for their audit work. NABL accredited Environmental Audit Consultancy Laboratory and Civil Material Testing Laboratory of the institute have acquired ISO 9001-2015 certification. There are many achievements done by faculties and awarded by gold medals. Every year, students have been facilitated with gold medals.
Hi, I'm Zenia Manchani and I'm a software engineer in Silicon Valley. I did my master's in computer science from California State University, Sacramento, and I did my bachelor's of engineering in computer science from FETR, which now known as RNGPIT. I have been asked to share my thoughts on a few key areas. So the first one was the campus life. So I can definitely say it was both fun and studies. Studies in the sense that we had to prepare for Viva, GTU exams, and for writing assignment. And another thing is the fun part to have two kind of activities. Like one is the Vishwa Smriti, which I personally liked the most because it was of both, combination of both gaming activities and coding. And another one is the Kashish. So in that dancing, singing, so and other cultural activities too. So it was very much enjoyable.
The institute has been awarded with the Appreciation Award for Green Campus at Energy Expo by South Gujarat Productivity Council. In our campus, more than 3,000 trees plantation and 194 number of solar panels with 65 kilowatt capacity for utilization of energy. Students are given full facility with the collection of around 15,000 volumes, 4,000 titles, 30 national and international journals, and 30 magazines. The institute provides facility of book bank and digital library to the students. The canteen facility is situated within the college campus. Type of hygienic meals and snacks are available at subsidized rate. Our institute provides hostel facilities for our college students. Vishwa Smriti, Cultural Festival Kashish, Sports Week, outbound training, and festival celebrations are carried out for welfare and growth. R.N.G. Patel Institute of Technology strongly believes in all-round development of the students who can shape the better future.
Very good evening to all the faculties of R.N.G. Patel Institute of Technology and all the viewers who joined us online today. I'm Dr. Madhvi Desai, Head of Computer Science and Engineering Department, R.N.G. Patel Institute of Technology. Welcome you all for the webinar series organized by Computer Science and Engineering Department. In this today's topic for our webinar is the key topic in the computer science and engineering era, that is the project management in IT companies. And for the deep discussion regarding this, we have an industry expert, Mr. Sandeep Shah. Sandeep Shah currently works for Hewlett Packard Enterprise as a strategic development manager in Dallas, Texas, USA. So first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Sandeep Shah sir for synchronizing the time with us, that is with the India, and he spared the time for us. Sir have 20 years of veteran in technology industry, focus on improving systematic processes and coming up effective ways to create products and services. Sir has completed BSc in Mechanical Engineering from Maharashtra Institute of Technology, Pune. He got his MS in Industrial Engineering from Texas A&M University, USA. And soon after, he started his career with Compaq as a manufacturing engineer. Mr. Sandeep's work history spans variety of roles, from streamlining server manufacturing process to managing SAP migration projects to leading strategic initiative within software supply chain. So with this, in this today's session, we have the industry expert, Mr. Sandeep Shah, and our Mr. Hemang Shah. He is the Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Engineering Department of RNGPIT. So again, for this, I would like to thank Mr. Hemang for organizing such an important topic, for organizing a webinar on such an important topic, that is the project management in IT companies, because this is very much important for all the faculties also, for all the students also, and we have some industry persons also in this webinar. So this is we would like to hear Mr. Sandeep Shah today on this particular topic. Please.
Thank you. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the introduction. I work for Hewlett Packard Enterprise, which is different from HP Inc. HP Inc. does all printers, desktop, laptops, which you are more familiar with. HPE does all the servers. It can be all the way to the supercomputers as well. So that's the company I work for. I just realized this morning, by the way, that for some of you, my working life is more than what your entire life has been, because some of you are not even 20 or close to 20. So it's just a realization. So today's topic is about project management, and I'm going to go over 10 slides, right? And to give you a high level understanding of how projects are run, what are some important criteria that are being done today. And ever since I entered my job, right, work life, I think everything that I've done is around projects. And so project management has now become just a part of me, and you just have to embrace it. There are goods and bads about it, but as a person, you have to embrace it, because this is how, in a structured environment where you have team members and you work with different organizations, project management has become a very important thing. So what I thought of doing was start with this picture, because I thought, since you are all computer science and computer engineers, this picture would be very relevant in the sense that it is very hard actually to talk about software, right? So when you go and tell somebody, hey, what do you want? The client will say, hey, I want something, right? In this example, he wants actually a swing, but he described it in a way that as the image shows. And then the person who understood it is a different perception of it. And then the guy who implements it is a complete different perception. And then at the end, it's like, no, I wanted just a swing with a tire underneath the rope, but you went and designed something that is completely different. And this happens quite often, actually. You might think, oh, this is definitely not relevant. No, that's not true. It happens quite often, where what you understand by reading user stories, or you attend, you're in sprints, sometimes what you understand what the client has asked to what actually you deliver are not in a match. And that's why this project management became a very important aspect, is to make sure that what the client described is what actually, and what he intended is actually what is delivered. There's no this ambiguity between what was asked to what was delivered, right? So that is basically what this image is talking about. So let's just get into some basic definitions, right? So project, today you do schoolwork, right? Your regular schoolwork, you have courses that you have to finish, and that's normal. But agar tamne koi ke jao ek farmer log na mate ek app develop karo, a semester ma khatam karvu joye, then that becomes your project, right? So project is something that you do temporary. There's a definite start and finish, and then there are dedicated resources, or a scope is defined, right? So that is a project. But today, when you do a project, usually it is either one person or up to 5 people as a team. But now think if it became bigger, you had 30 people in the project, or even 50. So a good example, right? Chalo tamare ghar banawo hai, right? Now ghar banawa mate tame architect ne employ kairu, a contractor ne employ kairu. Contractor on the other hand, pachi kaise ke mare materials jo hai, mare I have to get material suppliers, pachi mare karigar jo hai je banav se, mare carpenter jo hai. Now materials ma tame aju expand karo to koi marble supplier hoy, koi tile supplier hoy, koi cement supplier. Now his team becomes bigger. Now the contractor M joa jai to he's technically a project manager. He is bringing a bunch of people with a common goal to build your house, right? But each one has different priorities. Each one has different schedule, and he has to use his knowledge, right, that he has gained while being a contractor of experience, and the skills of how to bring all these people together, use different tools, and build your house. And that is basically what project management is. You're bringing a bunch of people with different skill sets, you're using your own know-how, and you're using tools and techniques to make sure that you meet your project requirements. And in this case, it's the house. And you look at the basic process, right? It's very, again, all this what I'm going to be talking about is at a very high level of project management. There is a lot of depth in this, but I just want to cover at a high level. So, but every project has an initiation, what is required, right? Then they go through the planning phase, there's execution and closing. And all along you have to do monitoring and control. But most projects go through this, whether, doesn't matter, big or small, whether you're in a startup or a big company, you pretty much go through this basic principles of managing any project. So, you know, there was a survey done, I think it was about 3,000 people that PMI, Project Management Institute, did a survey. And what they found, this was done in 2018, by the way. And what they found is 10% of every dollar that is actually wasted because of poor project performance, right? On the other hand, 32% of the budget is lost of a project when it fails to meet its goal. So most projects you run in different phases, right? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And as a company, you will see that when you're going through a phase, and if that first phase is not successful, usually budgets are cut, or there's de-scoping, or something will change always for you. Then for almost 40% of projects fail because organization change happens, priorities change, and that's quite common as well. Because a new management comes in, there was a VP that got replaced, a VP from an outside company came and then realizes that, oh, this is not important anymore. And so you always have that change as well. And the scope creep, it is so common. Scope creep happens all the time. And you do it in your day-to-day life as well. If you, again, going back to if you're building a house, તમે ઘર બનતું હોય તેને તમે જાઓ જો કે અરે યાર I wish તમે છે ને આ સિંક ને થોડુંક 2 ફૂટ એમ કરી શકો. You have that change. And then that is scope creep, because that was not originally planned of the scope. The scope was defined that the sink would be આ જગ્યા પર ને તમે પછી કહો કે આ બાજુ 4 ફૂટ એમ કરો. So that is scope creep, because that was not what your scope for your house. So 50% થી વધારે આ બધું થાય છે. Then finally, lot of organizations outsource their projects because the workforce that they have can only do so much. And if you have to do sometimes projects, they cannot do sometimes their regular work. So it is easier to say, you know what, I'm going to outsource it to some other company. So like Deloitte, TCS, Wipro, right? You outsource it to them, they do the project, they implement it, and you know there's a whole delivery team and things like that. So if you think about it, all these changes that can happen in a project, that's why project management has become now an important job in the industry, because of these attributes that happen on a regular basis. Every day this happens actually. And that's why there's now an importance of project management in companies. In fact, companies have set up dedicated PMO, project management office. It's a big team, relatively a big team that manages all the projects that are happening in a company. So I wanted to just lay the foundation of why project management is important. So hopefully this gives you the importance of it. So the next few slides, I have very few slides, by the way. So I didn't want to bore you all with too much detail. And we're going to cover the 6 important topics. Now, there are more, right? I just picked these 6 so that to give you enough understanding and embrace project management as in your day-to-day life. Even today, you don't have to wait to enter an industry to implement it. So these are the important, call it the 6 blocks, right? The strategic alignment, leadership and governance, problem solving, appropriate framework, people skills, one of the most important, and tools. So we are now going to go through one of each block at a time, again at a high level, so you have an understanding of it. So if you look at this chart, right, this is generally a structure that happens in an organization. Again, I keep emphasizing when I say organization, it doesn't mean it has to be a big organization or a small organization. You do parts of this in every aspect, whether you're a startup or you're a 50,000 employee company. So you have your strategic vision that you start with, your mission vision, your objective, your strategic goals, right? So that's what happens up there. And then you have based on those strategic goals, you come up with your projects, and then the project management department or PMO office runs with it to execute and make sure it gets completed. And the strategic of initiatives are one of the most important, because you need to have the right direction where you're going as a company. And project management is to support that strategy. In fact, I'll give you an example recently that there is a company by the name of JCPenney. It's a retail clothing company. It's a very big company, by the way. And it's headquartered literally 15 minutes from my house. And in 2011-12 timeframe, they they got a new CEO, and he came from Apple, right? And if you remember, Apple, the product mindset is there is no discount. This is the price. You like it, take it, or leave it, right? Apple has that whole cloud and aura around them that people will buy. They do not say, oh, I want 10% off or 20% off. You just get it. So when he came over to JCPenney, which is a retail company which sells clothes to shoes, everything, right? He implemented that same strategy, and he said, you know what? We are not going to give any discount. Our price is the final price, and that's it. But the customers are so used to having a discount. Today, the mindset is, I will never pay full price for a shirt. I want to get some discount. In fact, a lot of people will come very proudly say, you know what? I got 70% off on this shirt. And that's how they have created this market around high price, high discount model. And so when they changed that strategy, people were like, what do you mean, no discount? Oh, there's no way. I'm not shopping from you. And that started the downfall of JCPenney. It's one of the factors. And to an extent that things kept getting worse. And they tried to come out of it. They changed the strategy back, but they still never recovered. And they actually, because of COVID and other factors, they actually filed for bankruptcy just recently, last month. So again, strategy is very important. And that is what I want to emphasize by giving that example. And project management whole job is to support the strategy, right? Everything starts from that strategy. Moving on the leadership side and governance, right? So when you think about leadership, it's in this basic definition, yes, be a good leader, strong leader, march the troops forward, yes. But what I'm talking here, leadership is more about understanding how the organization is, understanding the culture of the organization, understanding how the dynamics between one department versus another department, what is that dynamic? And then understanding that within these organizations, there are decision makers, right? So you have people who are decision makers, and how do you influence those decision makers? And that's where we talk about leadership, of coming and presenting and talking to these leaders and convincing them that what you're trying to do is very important, and get their support into your project, right? That's the aspect I'm looking at here. And then there are tools as well, right? When you're a leader, where you look at roles and responsibilities, and you have clear definition, clear tasks, that's all falls under leadership. On the governance side of things, this triangle that I've shown here is how most companies, decent sized companies, will be running their organizations. So you have on the top layer is the steering committee or executive committee, and their job is mainly to provide direction. Their job is mainly to provide sponsorship, right? Because you need a sponsor. Then the next is project management office. So their job is to make sure that you're monitoring, evaluating, and managing all the different projects that are going on. The core team is then doing the work of actually making it happen, right? And the work streams that exist are to deliver the actual project. What is the actual requirement? So usually you have, it is a triangle where it's a small team on the top, the executive committee, and then it gets bigger. So you have multiple work streams report to a project, multiple projects report to program management office, and then there's executive committee based on different sponsors. So this is generally the structure on governance as far as project management is concerned. And again, I'll make this one statement about startups. The startups also have the same concept, right? They have the same structure. Now, there might be one person wearing multiple hats where he would be the PMO as well as project manager, because there might be only one project in a startup because that is what you're focusing on at the moment. But eventually you are doing the same governance structure, because there will be always a decision maker. There will always be a sponsor who's funding your startup. So you will go through these similar steps. You may not call it the same, but you're doing the same activity. So problem solving. Now this part here, when you think about it, I gave the example of that contractor, right? He's getting pulled from different directions. And there are all these different vectors, as I call them. And so I've listed some of these vectors here. And you as a project manager are constantly dealing with all these different vectors. So you have to look at scope, the scope creep. What do I do? Oh, there's going to be a scope change. How it impacts the resources that I have. How does it impact the quality of work? What are the other risks? Risk is a very big thing, by the way, because you could be using resources that are working on different projects as well. And they have their schedule and their timeline that, hey, I have allocated 2 days of mine per week for your project, but if you don't send me your stuff by Wednesday, I have to move on to the other project. There are other forms of risk. I'm just giving a simple example of people risk where people are moving around. Resources is a similar thing, which kind of falls into the previous example of risk, is you have limited resources, and it could be people, it could be tools, it could be if you are in construction, it could be the equipment that you borrow, that could be a resource as well, right? It's the earth excavator that is limited time you have rented it for, things like that. Stakeholder expectations, like you have to be constantly making sure that their stakeholders or your sponsor, what they expect out of the project has not changed, right? So you are meeting their requirements and you keep them updated of what's going on. And by the way, stakeholders, they change their mind too, right? So you have to work with all that. And finally, on communication, I actually have created a separate section for communication, because I think that's one of the most important aspect of project management, is how do you communicate? And so you have to find the right way, because even today, like for example, I'm giving this presentation to you, as some of you might think that you might be on your phone. I've already lost you, right? So I have to make this presentation interesting enough that will catch your attention, that you get off your phone and you're actually listening to me and not doing something on the side, right? Those are, how do I reach my audience is very important. There are professionals who are very good at it. You can take Sadhguru for an example, right? When he speaks, there are people who are actually listening to him. So those are skills that you will learn, and you have to figure out, based on your audience, how do I communicate to them? So moving on to framework or philosophies, right? In project management, there are many, by the way. There is Scrum, you'll hear different terms, iterative methods and things like that. I wanted to focus on just these two for now, because they are the most prevalent, right? So you have the waterfall and you have agile. And most of you on the software side of the house have heard of Agile. It's a very, today almost every software company uses the Agile method. But waterfall is still around. And by the way, waterfall is not an outdated thing. It's used even in IT companies. If you're doing, I was involved in an SAP migration project, and it was purely based on waterfall approach. And so there are times when waterfall makes sense, and there are times when Agile makes sense, right? You cannot just say, I'm going to go with waterfall all the time or Agile all the time. And there are some companies who are now trying to make waterfall and Agile kind of try to do a mix of it. In fact, I read an article recently where they were talking about doing an SAP migration project and they were planning to do Agile with waterfall type of on SAP. Usually SAP is usually waterfall. But this chart basically tries to, at a very high level, give you the difference between a waterfall and an Agile. So if you think about it, again, going back to the house, right? We can all relate to a house. The scope is fixed, right? You have to build a house. You've got your blueprint. You're building it on that based on that blueprint. Now, the variables in that case could be, cost, quality, and time, in the sense that depends on when the material came, or there was an increase in price of the material, or some operator didn't show up, a carpenter didn't show up. It then messes up the time. So that is always going to be the variables. But the scope is, hey, I'm building a house. In the Agile method, if you were to think about it, even in your house, technically, your mother would be doing kind of Agile in an extent, right? She knows she has all these vegetables, all this thing, and then she's going to decide what I'm going to make today. It is not a fixed thing that today, every day, I'm only going to get bhindi sabji, right? So you've got your resources, you've got time, and you've got what you need, right? And then they decide, okay, what I'm going to make. And then while making, they're tasting, they're saying, oh, something is less here. Let's add some more stuff. Oh, ama mitu kam che, ama marchu badara che. Let me fix it, right? So that's technically, your moms are amazing project managers, by the way. You have to go back and tell her, hey, you are a great project manager, because sometimes you do waterfall stuff, sometimes you do Agile stuff, and somehow you keep the house running, right? So they are brilliant project managers, by the way. Most moms, I would say, are amazing at it. It comes naturally to them. We just don't give them the title of project manager. We say you're a homemaker, but technically they are amazing project managers. But going back to this, you have these two approaches. On the Agile side of things, today in an IT company, you have the scope, you have the overall scope, what you want to get to. But what happens in an Agile method is you break down that big scope into small stories. And those small stories are being worked in a fixed time frame by a fixed number of people. And in the Agile method, there's constant interaction with the end customer, right? What are you delivering? Today, let's say you created a website. You give just basic functionality that the website is up and running. You can, let's say, add some products into the basket, and you can fulfill an order. Then you show to the customer, is this what you wanted? Does it look in the direction that where we need to go? And then the customer might say, yeah, but can you make this change, that change? Because I don't like how the basket looks once you load the items into the basket. I don't like the way you have shown where discount is shown. I want to see discount at every line item, not at the top level. And so those are Agile methods where then they will take that feedback, put it back into stories, go through another sprint, and then work it. So that is the Agile method, and which you most likely have been exposed to. You may not have called it, even when you do simple projects in your computer science courses. You are most likely doing Agile method, but without calling it Agile. So coming to people skills. So this is by far doesn't matter whether you become a project manager, and doesn't matter whether you are a computer science guy or a mechanical guy, does not matter. This is by far really important across the board. Communications, in fact, there have been studies done. I took a course when I was at about 5 years ago, where we were given some statistics on how the tone of your voice and your body language when you're presenting in front of people matter more than the content of what you're talking about. And I cannot tell you how true that is till you stand up on stage and present. And you, if, let's say, for example, if I was to present this, right, the wrong way, I would go something like this. આજે આપણે કમ્યુનિકેશન માટે વાત કરશે. પહેલી ટોપિક ઓડિયન્સ અવેરનેસ, સેકન્ડ ટોપિક વર્બલ, word choice, tone, body language. By the time I speak like this, you would have gone to sleep, right? And the point being is, you need to have the right tone, you need to have the right body language, you have to use the right words, right? So for example, when you are working on a project, let's say there are 3 people and somebody is giving an idea, and there could be somebody who is more like a leader in that group of 4, and he'll say, no, that's not how we're going to do it, or no, that's a bad idea. As soon as you say that, right, the person who was going to give an idea, he's already shut off. He's not going to give you any idea, nor is he listening to what you're saying. So there are techniques of how you do this. One of the techniques, very simple, right? If somebody gives an idea and you may not like it, or there could be a different way, there are better ways. Instead of shutting that person and saying no, you can say, what if we tried this? What if we did it this way? That way, you're not shutting the person off, but you're giving an alternative without really telling him no, that it's a bad idea using those words. But you have already stirred the conversation into a different direction, with that person then thinking in his head, oh yeah, maybe I should do it this way, right? So that's where choice of words becomes very important. And of course, tone is, if you're always yelling, then it's really bad. Nobody will listen to you. It's like when your dad keeps yelling at you for something, how many of you have just tuned out because it's always the same yell? But when your dad raises his voice and then suddenly drops, and then you're like, oh, now you're paying attention. So it happens, right? I'm just pointing out things that you are doing or you are experiencing on a daily basis, actually, if you think about it from a communication perspective. Then on the written side of communication, based on your audience, right, you have to do different report outs. So your report out to an executive committee is not going to be a long report, because if you do a long report, they are already not going to read it because they do not have time. So you have to put it in 5 bullet points, give the high level gist of what you have. There's a very famous saying, if I had time, I would have written you a shorter letter. So what it means is, it's very easy to write long letters because you're just putting everything, you're writing. It's like sometimes when you're in 12th standard, when you had to give social studies and they were asked a question, you'd make sure you wrote 200-word answer to a question, right? Because you thought that the more you write, the more marks you'll get. At least that's what, about 20 years ago or 25 years ago, that's what I did. But to write really short letter just in 4 or 5 bullet points, usually what people do is you start writing and then you reread, you edit, you remove things, you write again, right? So to write very small letter, very in 5 bullet points to do report out requires a lot of thinking and time, and it only comes with practice to get better at it. On the documentation side, most engineers are really terrible at this, right? They do not like documenting processes. We always want to just move on to the next thing. And unfortunately, it is part and parcel of life where you have to do documentation. It is very important. And it's important not for the next person who's going to come, but it's more important for you, because 2 months down the road, you will not remember what you did, why you did. And that's why a lot of good coders will put a lot of comments in their code so that they know what they did, why they did, what is that little section of the code is supposed to do, or that function is supposed to do, so that when you have to go debug something that happens later, or there was a change, you know how to handle it. And last but not the least is team dynamics. So today, even amongst your friends, right, you will have conflicts, and there will be somebody who comes and tries to do the conflict resolution between your friends. So as a project manager, now taking it to a project level, you're going to have different teams. If you take manufacturing, you have the IT team, you have the production team, you have the inventory teams, the materials team, and there's constant back and forth where, hey, your systems didn't work, your system didn't show that I was short on inventory. Then the IT guy is like, hey, you didn't update your system and the right information on for your inventory. And then procurement is like, hey, because it was not updated, I didn't send the PO. And there's this whole thing of trying to figure out whose fault it is. And as a project manager, your job is move on, right? Figure out, okay, we made a mistake, let's move on from this, stop doing this finger pointing, who's at fault, and let's put process in place that next time such event does not happen, right? So you have to find solutions to that, and always have a positive attitude. I think irrespective of what job you do or where you are in life, whether you're a student or you're about to get to a new graduate from school, or you're a teacher, it does not matter. You have to come with positive energy every day into a team meeting, and that is what people will embrace, and they will be ready to listen to you if you have a positive attitude. And I'm not saying anything new here, right? You all know all this stuff, but I wanted to emphasize on communication and team dynamics is because it is a skill that is slowly diminishing. Think about yourself today. How many of you actually get on stage and actually talk or present? Or you're in a meeting of friends and you are actually having a conversation instead of, hey, you saw this funny joke on my phone? We have actually stopped talking. We are sending a lot of text back and forth. But that is one mode of communication, but that is not a communication that is going to get your projects moving. Text messages and all that are great for quick update notifications and things like that. But if you are working on a project, you need to have that verbal ability to speak confidently with the right tone, right body language in front of a big audience, right? So that's very important. And last but not the least, I said, okay, let me add something because you all are computer science guys and you all like to talk about tools and scripts and apps and all that. So I said, let me add this block as far as tools are concerned. So it depends on your project, right? So if your project is simple, you could even do it on an Excel spreadsheet, right? As simple as that. Or a Microsoft project, right? There are basic functionality where you can do your project management on it. And there are better tools out there like Jira, Sciforma, Monday.com. There are plenty of tools. At the end of the day, as a project manager, you will look based on what the company is. You'll decide what works best for that company or for that project. In fact, you could use all these tools in the company as well. Usually not, right? I have done projects on Excel, Project, Jira, right? Those are the three that I've listed up there. And so that's what we have done in our company, or I've been engaged with. I'm sure there are other tools that are out there that I haven't worked on, but it's out there. You do need these tools, by the way, because it keeps your life simpler, right? Because if you don't have these tools, it's hard to keep track because there are too many tasks. If you have, let's say a project is divided into 100 tasks and you have, let's say 25 people on the team, it's very hard to keep track of who did what, when, whose dependency is, oh, when this finishes, this task starts, or there's a lot of mix match. This matrix gets very complicated very quickly. And so therefore you need these tools. So this is my last slide. And I just wanted to end that from a project management perspective, I hope I have at least given you some insight into what project management is. In here, we would say what I've shared with you is Project 101. It's the basic course or basic introduction. It's not even a course, I wouldn't call it. And there are avenues for you to go and research. I mean, actually go take certification courses. There are a lot of institutes that provide PMI type of PMP certifications. It is definitely worth taking. It will help you in your career for sure. And even outside of, even whether you work in a company or you do your own startup, the basic fundamentals of it are very useful in your day-to-day life as well. I hope this was useful for you. And that's pretty much the end of my presentation, and we can have Q&A.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. Myself, Professor Shah, Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Engineering Department, R.N.G. Patel Institute of Technology. Bardoli welcomes you all in an online webinar on project management in IT companies. Really, sir, very valuable and clear information was shared by you in a very simple and effective way, that how one can manage projects in IT companies by signifying its importance, success factors, strategy of organization behind successes, different skills required, and use of different easy to use tools which can be used by individual or as a team for making a project a grand success in IT companies. Thank you very much, sir. So now, without not taking much of time, all of you, let's move towards question and answer sessions. Sir, there are some questions which are asked by the audience during this live session. The first question coming over here is, the question is, during COVID-19, any special project management technique required in India?
Not really. There is no, COVID-19 does not define any special technique or not. Those techniques are to be used irrespective of whether there's COVID-19 or not, right? So you can use these techniques, the same ones that I highlighted, some of them today. In fact, now what has happened is, with a lot of you working, like in my case, right? I've been working from home for 10 years. So it's not a big change for me, but there are a lot of people who are moving away from office and they have to work from home. So now managing projects has become even a bigger requirement, where there are constant more meetings because you cannot sit in a conference room or you cannot walk to somebody's desk. So there is more interaction and more meetings happening. But other than that, there's not been a big change from a project management perspective, whether there was COVID or not. Number of meetings have increased because there's no people walking together. But other than that, no change.
Exactly. The second question is, what is career path for project managers?
Right. So, most people start at a business analyst, right? You as an IT professional would start as a business analyst, and then you would climb up the ladder based on your skills. You become a work stream lead, then you become a project manager, then you would become a PMO director, right? So where you climb up the ladder and you become a PMO director for IT. And what happens is, a lot of people are, you're coding today, let's say you love coding, at some point you might decide that I don't want to do coding, right? I want to manage people who do coding.
Yes.
That's when you grow up and become a manager, and you climb up the ladder in terms of, from a individual contributor of doing coding, you can go, you can do whatever you want. You can climb up the ladder to become a PMO director, a VP of project management, and things like that. PMO office, sorry. And there's no limit. The skills are still the same, and you can use it everywhere.
Okay. The next question is, how does communication play a role while project management and its executions? How could our students improve their communication skills as per your personal view?
So communication skill by far is the most important, as I've stated earlier. How to improve it, right, is practice. So when I say practice, even for this simple presentation that I had to do, I went through it 3-4 times. I even presented to my wife where she was in another room, and I practiced it so that I was confident when I come to think. I'm not sitting in this call and going, um, that's not, you lose audience, right? So that's one. So practice. Second thing is, there's a concept called Toastmaster, and I don't know if it's available in your college, but Toastmaster is basically there's a committee that holds, you join this club, it's called Toastmasters, and every time they meet they have 2 or 3 presenters, and they pick a topic that they like, that they want to present. So you stand on stage and you are actually presenting to the audience, and the audience actually gives feedback. What could have been done better? Oh, your back was facing the audience more than your front part. How do your voice was not modulating, your tone was the same. So they give feedback, right? So that is a good way of improving your communication skill. And another, from a tool perspective, whether you like it or not, this Microsoft product called PowerPoint is going to become a very important part of your life.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir. Actually, this is actually a good suggestion. We will definitely implement for our students.
Yeah.
And really, we are happy to share with you that we are already running a club which is built, that is known as a developer student club, which is coming under the banner of a Google. And in this club, only students are taking the sessions. They are arranging the sessions. They are managing all the stuff. Just we need
Oh,
to
fantastic.
give them resources. And few days back only, we had done a webinar regarding it in our YouTube channel only.
Oh,
So
very
many of us can visit that also, and they can have a knowledge that how our students are dealing, and what exactly, as a project manager perspective point of view, what is needed and what actually we are delivering in terms of as an academician to our students, and what are the facilities that we are providing to our students that would be nurturing them in their career. That is basically what a guy is needed after completing his graduation.
right. I mean, by the way, I have to make one comment that what these sessions that you are doing is fantastic. I don't recall when I was doing my engineering in Pune ever attending any of these things. And I think now, 20 years later, is like, I wish I had that opportunity where I was exposed to all this, help me make decisions, because it was almost like whatever first job came, I took it and I ran with it, right? And then it's like an arranged marriage. You fall in love later with your job. That's how it was.
But
The
we are
next
providing,
question.
as Mr. Hemang said, we are providing the platform for developing their presentation skill, their leadership skills, all the type of what is required to be a project manager.
Yeah,
In
that's
C.
brilliant. That is brilliant. I think that is fantastic that you are doing that. It is really very important. And I'm so happy to hear that you are doing it. Fantastic.
The next question coming is, how is cost determined for a project? Because
Yeah. So,
basically the final year students, they are little bit confused when they are asked, okay, what is the estimated cost of your project. They are not able to give answer, or they are not able to evaluate themselves, okay, what would be the factors that would be dealing to find a final cost for a project.
right. So, frankly, it is hard. I do not disagree with the students who are experiencing this. And because you go, for example, you come up with a project and then you go and ask the IT guy, right, who's doing the actual coding, hey, to do this, how many hours will you take? And the guy looks at it and says, maybe 5 hours. Oh, then you say, oh, 5 hours, it's $30 an hour, it's $150. That's the cost, right? And usually that's not the case. He's going to give you a rough estimate. And with experience, you will then pad stuff, because when there are some people and this is where knowing what your team is very important, right? There are some people on your team who overinflate the number, and they will say, oh, that thing will take 20 hours. And then okay, this guy is telling a lot, I'm going to reduce it. Whereas on the other hand, there are some members who are like always underestimating the amount of work. Oh, I can do it in 4 hours. And you have to pad it up. And it is something that you will get with experience. that what is the right cost. You will make few mistakes along the way, right? You might under budget sometimes, you might over budget sometimes. Over budgeting is okay, because then you can say, company, you can take this money back, I don't need it. But under budgeting is sometimes a problem. And again, this goes back to culture as well, is in your company, in terms of how easy or hard is it to get funding. So it's unfortunate, but what happens is, if you know that whatever has been budgeted, and if you are under budget and you have to go ask again for money, you're going to get a lot of pushback. Then project manager will do is, he will pad it with added dollars and say, I need a bit more. So he'll put, let's say, 10% extra to cover himself in case of something that is not planned. And then you go present it to the company, and so that you know that even if I'm off by a little bit, I'm covered. So it just depends, and it comes with experience. Unfortunately, I know it's not the answer you're looking for. It's not like a math question that, there is a fix. How do I solve a Pythagoras theorem, right? It's not that way. And one thing I will point out, right? What is the biggest problem with project management is humans. We are dealing with people. Unlike your code, you have written a code, your code executes what you have written, the lines. They do not decide what I need to do, right? It's zeros and ones. It's very clear cut. Unlike that, project management is dealing with people, and people are very complex. If you look at yourself, how many times you change decisions about your own self, what you like or don't like, what is your mood today? I'm in a mood to work. Today, I'm not in a mood to work. So that is the problem with project management. The problem is you're dealing with humans, and humans are very complicated. Robots are very simple, by the way. They work on zeros and ones, but humans don't. And that is the problem.
The next question coming in the sequence is how to get enough budget from client. That is a big question.
There is never going to be enough. There is never. See, you're coming from two different points, right? The client's objective is to get the maximum out of you with the least amount of money. And your job here is to deliver the best thing with infinite amount of resources, so you can hire people or get better tools or get better servers, laptops, whatever you need, right? And I don't think so that will ever be the case. There is no answer for that, hey, how will I get the most money? Now, the one thing I will say is, when you work with a client, right, your reputation of what you have done helps. In fact, think about it this way. Today, most of us, right, do not buy a product. Most of us, right, are not those. If there is no rating on a product on Amazon, if it is not 4-star, you don't even look at it. If it is 1 star or no rating, you're like, not even bothering with it, right? So what I'm saying is, when you have done some projects, and when you tell people that, hey, I've done this project, here is what it cost, here was what it budgeted, this is how we delivered, this is what we delivered, then people will say, okay, I will go with it, right? But when you do that first one, is always hard. And sometimes, and a lot of people, when you do your first one, you actually end up doing it at a loss, because you just want to get that experience. You just want to have something on your resume, or you want your first client. You will do whatever, because that first client is like your investment, frankly. It's not about the budget, the money. You're talking about your own investment, right? Of your time into your own career, because that's your stepping stone to the next client, right? So, sorry, I don't have a good answer, but that is
actually, so we can say, if it is a first project, then success is very much important than the budget. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
The next question is, how does culture play into a success of a project?
So culture is important, very important. I'm not talking of culture of, what is the US mindset versus Indian mindset, nothing of that. I'm not getting into that aspect of the culture. That plays too, but what I want to focus here is, I think you should focus here is on the company's culture. What kind of a company are you? Are you a company that there is a lot of interaction, constant interaction, people like to be in the know-how of things? Then agile might be a better way of doing project management. If the culture of the company is, man, I'll give you my requirements, I throw it over the fence, you go deal with it, give me a feedback at the end, or bring me once you're almost done, then waterfall might be the approach, right? So because if you think that I'm going to go with agile, but the culture, the mindset of the people is not to be in the agile mindset, your project is going to fail. Because like I said, agile, you need constant interaction with people. And when you have this constant interaction, you need participation. And if the mindset is, I do not want too many meetings, I cannot take it, right? Then it defeats the purpose of doing agile. So that's how culture is very important in picking what's the right method of doing it. And yes, then there are cultures of the actual culture, which is, okay, what is the Indian mindset? What is the American mindset? How do we take, time? Let's just pick time. Are we on time usually on attending a meeting, or usually late to a meeting? What is that? Then you plan accordingly how your meeting should be. If you know, let's say I'm always late to a meeting by 20 minutes, then you would set on my calendar 20 minutes ahead. For everybody else, you set it up as a regular meeting. But if I'm always late, then you do it that way. So yes, culture is very important in deciding which approach you take, which framework or philosophy you run with.
One of our final year student has asked when to act as a leader and when to act as a team man while working on a project.
So, so this is where RACI, roles and responsibilities, become a very important aspect. So you might have heard of this term RACI, RACI, right? Which stands for responsibility, accountability, consulting, and informed, right? So when you decide a project, you have this framework where you define clear roles and responsibilities. Now, as a person who is, if you're responsible or accountable for a certain task, you are leader in that aspect, and you're going to be giving your inputs, right? Now, there is no this thing that when will I be a team player and a leader. Your role has been defined, and if your role is to work, you're accountable for something, you are a leader for that something, right? And you are a team player at the same time for that same thing, right? So there is no, I'm not wearing, oh, today I'm going to be a team player and sit in the back and just listen. There's nothing that way. Projects work on ideas from everybody, and the project manager's job as a leader is to take all the ideas, have a discussion, get an agreement, and then move forward. Because if you don't have agreement and you just do what you want, eventually as that project leader is going to fail because the team hasn't bought onto the idea of what you're trying to achieve, right? So you have to have that you're a team player and a leader always. I do not create a distinction between that.
Exactly, sir. Most of the questions are answered. The last question from my side is, of the three main pillars, cost, time, and scope. Means cost, time, and scope. Which one do you find more important?
I would say scope, because I think once you know what you want, it's like this, right? So let's go back our contractor ne, since I love our contractors. कि अगर घर बना हुआ है, single story, bare story, you define that definition helps do everything else. Even in an agile method, if you want to create a website like Amazon, eventually that's your goal, right? That's your ultimate scope. You will break it into multiple smaller goals to achieve that ultimate goal. So that scope defines, I think, the other two pillars. And that lever, the scope lever, has a very big pull to bring cost, quality, and time together. So I would say scope is the most important, at least from what I have seen in my career.
Exactly. So I think all the questions are covered which were asked by the audience during the session and are answered very well by you, sir. And we are getting many more comments saying and they are appreciating you that you have really very well effectively delivered the presentation, and the concepts are very well explained by you. Thank you, sir.
Oh,
Before
thank
ending
you.
this session, I want to give vote of thanks on behalf of R.N.G. Patel Institute of Technology and Computer Science and Engineering Department. Myself, Professor Hemang Shah, would like to extend our most heartfelt appreciation to our expert, Mr. Sandeep Shah, sir, for sharing the knowledge and experiences with us by explaining how project can be effectively managed in IT companies. Really, sir, we are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences with us. Though you are right now in America and our time zones are different, I want to tell audience that according to US time, sir is with us since 6:45 a.m. That is too early in the morning, which is really needed to be appreciated because still the sun has not risen over there. Thank you again, sir, for your contribution. Really, it means a lot for us. Last but not least, my heartfelt thank you to the whole managing committee of our institute, RNGPIT. Dr. Latesh B. Chaudhary, sir. Sir is also attending this session, and sir has also given regards and thanks to you. That is the principal of RNGPIT, Dr. Latesh
Oh,
Chaudhary, sir.
thank you.
Dr. Madhvi B. Desai, that is the head of Computer Science and Engineering Department, RNGPIT. And I'm really thankful to all of the panels, members, and the executive committees of the department, and even the RNGPIT family faculties for guiding and motivating us to arrange such webinars. Also, thanks to coordinator of this live session, Mrs. Bhagyashree Patel, ma'am, that is Assistant Professor, Computer Science and Engineering Department, RNGPIT, for allowing us to go live and share knowledge via digital platform in this pandemic COVID-19 duration. And lastly, thanking to all the participants, our students, faculties, and also thank you to our alumni students. There is a huge response from alumni students also because they are working on projects, and really they have appreciated the topic which we have done in this webinar. They have actively participated and have already had spared their valuable time for attending this webinar. Thank you all. Stay at home, be safe and healthy. Keep learning. It's a need of our. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the
Thank you, sir.
opportunity. Bye-bye.
And last thing, sir, if you want to say anything to our students who are working on project final year and those who would be coming in final year.
Same thing, sir. Actually, I also want to ask the same, that please give some suggestion to our students also for completion of project.
Frankly, I would say, give your best, right, on your project, but use these skills of project management. Plan what you want to do. Break it down into small chunks. Work those small chunks, and it'll make it easy to digest the problem, right? And especially as a final year student, I would say that work on your communication skills. You trying to get a job, you are like a sales guy. You are trying to say to the person why you will bring value. And the way you were in an interview, you may not, yes, some interviews will be asked to code. So that's your technical skills. But you will have to have a good communication skills, especially in an interview, is verbal skills. So you should practice. And as I said, it's good to attend interviews even if you don't like that job or you're not planning to, but it gives you a practice, because practice makes it really good. Even if you read Steve Jobs, right, he's known for giving amazing presentations. If you go back and look on YouTube, all the Apple products, he would practice a lot in giving a presentation. He would do rehearsals. It is not, and all of us have it. It's just we have to spend time on it, of practicing, so that when the time comes, you are not nervous, you are confident. It should show to the person, right? And especially when you are entering a job market or you're going to a sponsor, somebody asks for budget, right? How confidently you speak, the guy will feel like giving you more money, right? So I would recommend that as a final year student, working on that aspect of your a skill set that you would need, and it'll come useful the rest of your life.
Thank you, sir,
Thank you,
for
sir.
wonderful advice given to our students. We will end this session. Hope you everybody had liked this session, and we will move towards the another.
Thank you,
Thank
folks.
you.
Thanks for the opportunity, by the way. I loved it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Bye.